Energy, it's a British company. It employs in excess of 20 staff in the European headquarters in Stirling. The ultimate parent company is Dart Energy, which is located in Singapore, but is listed on the ASX, the Australian Stock Exchange. We've held for many years 22 onshore licenses across a great swathe of the UK, Wales, England and Scotland, and we've actually drilled with over 40 trouble-free wells. We've never had any problems with our wells, we've never had an environmental incident with our wells, and until recently nobody even noticed when we were drilling, because they really are benign, small developments. Back in May, Dart Energy had agreed to be acquired by iGas Energy, which I'm sure plenty of you know the name of around here, and the deal is actually expected to complete in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. iGas Energy, it's a bigger company than us. It has conventional oil and gas operations and has aspirations to be the leading shale gas operator in the UK. And like Dart Energy, they're hot on their operational excellence. Our partners are quite impressive. GDF Suez, which is an extremely large French company, bearing in mind that shale gas and fracking is banned in France, have taken a share in in a number of our licenses. We've got Total, another French company, involved in another license that's actually operated by iGas. And recently, INEOS, and I think there might be someone from INEOS in the audience, took an interest in one of our Scottish licenses near Grangemouth refineries. But as you know, they are very much a local employer at Runcorn. The thing about these partners, to my mind, in terms of helping people understand, these guys wouldn't have got in bed with daft wee companies like Dart Energy if they didn't believe in the resource, but also believe that we can actually run a decent operation. They all did very strong due diligence before they got in bed with us. So, I mentioned we've got licenses in Scotland, but let's just talk about England for a second. Down to the left, I think that's where we are, sort of Manchester-ish way. The blue, all the colours are ours actually. The blue, that orangey thing, and the white and the pinky thing, that's licenses we have. And the outline green, they're actually iGas licenses, so you can understand that there's pretty much a meeting of minds in the areas of focus for both companies. We've safely drilled, as I mentioned, 40 CBM wells in England, Scotland, Wales and Poland. But in this area, this again is England and a little bit of Wales. You'll see we've done quite a lot over towards the east rather, and 2 or 3 in Chester Wrexham area. We drilled one recently at Farndon, and that was our first experience of protests. And we found out about the protesters. Well, the protesters actually found us when we only had, fortunately, 1 week to go in our drilling operation. Protesters had come down on an away day from Barton Moss. The protesters then moved over to our drilling site over in Nottinghamshire and hung around for a long time. So it's the same guys every time we see them. They are there. Everyone likes pictures. This was our drilling operation at Farndon. As you can see, the rig is not terribly big. It's about 27 metres high when it's fully extended. And the reason that I put a nighttime shot here is you can see that the lights are actually pointed into the area of the site rather than into people's bedrooms. That little one down there just talks about we're at 630 metres. We actually measure it, and that guy's adding more drill pipe. And that's just the same rig in the daytime. Shale gas is trapped in really, really hard rock, and you have to break into that rock, fracture it to release the gas. And that's when you're pumping in water and sand and a little bit of chemicals at high pressure to fracture that rock. And you're only doing certain zones. You're not just filling a hole full of water. You're actually, which zones you want to frack. And I'll go on to that in a minute or two. Shale gas. What is shale gas? Well, it's gas. It's just stuck in very difficult to extract from rocks. It's one of the most common rock types on Earth, apparently. I'm not a technologist, so I have to keep it simple for myself. Commercially productive shales, we reckon, are generally as far down as 1,500 metres. That's more than a mile. So between 1 or 2 miles is where you'll be talking about. And the UK is estimated to have a huge amount of shale gas, but until we drill some exploration wells, we really won't know. And that's key to remember, especially when you're talking to landowners and other concerned people, is that we don't know yet what's really there. We've got a blooming good estimate, but until you drill wells, you won't know. And there will be disappointments along the way. That's just the nature of exploration. I mentioned, all right, we'll just go through this one quickly. So what's actually involved in drilling a well? You drill the well, you case and cement the well to protect the integrity of the borehole and the aquifer. The aquifer is something that's cited a lot as a big issue, and the industry knows how to protect the aquifer. It's been doing it for every well it's ever drilled. We perforate the casing. When you case a well, especially for a shale well, you'll put steel pipes all the way down, right to the end, and you'll then perforate parts of that to allow the water to get through to access the rock. You pump your fracking fluids in at high pressure in several stages, and that can be as many as 24 stages. Sand and some water stays in the fractures, the fissures that you've created. Gas starts to flow back to the well bore. The water starts to flow back as well, where it's safely disposed of or reused for the next fraction job. Then the fracking equipment leaves the site. It doesn't stay there forever. It just goes, just like a drilling rig. It's a piece of very high, expensive equipment that you want off your site quickly. Gas flow is tested, and you either keep that well for future use, or you abandon it, as we call it in the industry, which means you reinstate it. You fill it with cement or concrete, and you reinstate the site to its original use. And in fact, the site that we talked about in Farndon, which is actually a CBM well, we've reinstated that, reinstated the grass, and the cows are hopefully happily going around there at the moment. So it's the rocks that are different, not the gas. As I said earlier, drilling into shale layer is no different to drilling into sandstone, oil and gas reservoir. And the drilling, as I said, is a temporary operation. The rocks are different. Sandstone is porous, shale rock is hard and needs to be persuaded through fracking to release its gas or oil. Fracking comes along after drilling, and it's only if it's required. For a shale well, you just assume it is required. Again, fracking is a temporary operation. And if you get to production stage, production can actually last for 10 to 50 years, all being well. And I'll come on to how we're not going to wreck the surface by doing that. I'm not sure if you can see that terribly well. If I just come down here, here's our well, and this is a fracking. So the drilling rig's gone. Fracking lorries come along, which will include the guys with the sand, the guys with the water, the guys with chemicals. Pump it down in along the seam, and at these certain spots where you've already perforated, you're sending the water under high pressure, and then here, then here, then here, and that opens up the fissures. The gas comes down, the water comes back out, some of it anyway, and then the gas, because the sand's holding these fissures open, the gas will eventually be released, come up to surface. I mentioned aquifer protection. We have multi-layers of protection down below the aquifer. We drink the water, we use the water ourselves. We're not going to do anything silly about it. And it's very important for every company that does an operation that we protect the aquifer, and we do that. Now, we don't have this in the UK yet, but this is an example from the US or Australia possibly. It's a 10-well shale pad. If you do pads with multi-wells that can go off in various directions from that pad, your surface impact is a lot smaller. if you've got a big development, you will have centralised ancillary facilities such as in-field gathering systems, you'll have gas conditioning and gas compression to get the gas off into the grid. So there will be somewhere in the area a central processing facility. Shale gas industry is heavily regulated, and now this jumble is actually put together by DEC, I think it was, which is Department of Energy and Climate Change. I've tried to simplify it, which is a bit of a task. Essentially just to say, getting to drill a single shale well, never mind have a development, is a long process. You get your license awarded by DEC. Then you have to obtain and analyse your seismic data. You have to choose areas to focus on. And then you have to find potential drilling sites and agree land access deals. One thing I would say about land access deals, I think the whole climate has changed. Land agents have a job of not only agreeing land access deals, but actually holding the landowners' hands, because landowners are being targeted by activists now. And if you're going to do a deal for them, we need to be able to help them, get to a sensible point as a result of that deal. Now, we, the company, spend a lot of time working with landowners, and that's very important to us. But because they're being specifically targeted, whoever's helping put the deal together in the first place needs to help them understand the issues. We're obtaining planning consent. Well, you've got an environmental risk. You all know this, so I'll not bother. But I think the point is, because just as landowners are being targeted, so are councils, councillors, MPs, parish councils. You're going to see a lot of parish councillors not bothering to put themselves back forward because it's just too much hassle for them. So there will be times, like we experienced in Wrexham, we had just a simple CBM exploration well rejected by the council, and that's going through an appeal process. So the appeal process is going to probably have to be built in until people really get a grip of, actually, this isn't as bad as everyone's saying. It's really not that bad at all. Once you've actually got your planning permission, you're still under the regulation system. You've got the coal authority permits. You've got to agree a well design with an independent well examiner, and that person has the ability to say, I don't agree, and they can stop your planned well stone dead until you get something that you do agree with. You need your Environment Agency permits, and you need to notify the HSE. All these come after planning permission. So the councils are still trying to find their way about, well, where does their responsibility stop and where does someone else take over? As I mentioned, multi-well pads, this is a representation. It might look nothing like this in the end, but the idea is we're not going to have wells here, 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 and here. We're going to have multi-well pads where you can reach further by going underground, and that's our representation of what it might look like. It looks a bit jumbled down under 2 miles down, but that's the way the designers managed to put that one together. Water usage in fracking is a big issue, at least in the public's eye. So an individual frack stage, I mentioned that you're fracking in stages. It might use up to something like 700 cubic metres of water, which sounds quite a lot. It is quite a lot. It's 154,000 gallons. But to put that into perspective, an Olympic-sized swimming pool is 2,500 cubic metres, which is 550,000 gallons. But in 2010-11, to put it in real perspective, is the water industry in England and Wales lost 3.36 billion litres per day through leakage. So we might, the industry may well take a fair amount of water and use it, but it's nothing compared to elsewhere. But the industry is committed to working with the water suppliers to make sure sources are managed appropriately. Hazards v risk. This is actually a hazard. I could step back and fall down, and that's me. I've got the hazard and exposure if I step back, but I know it's there, so I'm trying not to step back. When you've got hazard and no exposure, it means no risk. And everything we do as an industry is aimed at ensuring there's no or as minimal risk as possible. And that's it's an issue we've not so far managed to get across to the general public. Is we take risk into account every single day, everything we do. Therefore, when we're going to drill a well, we know we've assessed all the risks. When we're putting in a planning application, we know we've assessed all the risks. But if someone says, you're going to poison my water, you're going to release gas all over the place, I'm going to die, etc., and that's just the things people are being fed by activists. So we have to not only get the message across, but demonstrate through operational excellence that is what we do every single day. And typical modern frac fluid. I'm not going to bore you with every single one of these. All I'm trying to get across here is the chemicals that get put into the frac fluid are generally everyday chemicals you might find under your kitchen sink or in your cupboard in some cases. Sodium chloride, I believe that's table salt. Some people may actually have the fracking fluid or the fracking chemical that Quadrilla used in their Priest Hall well, the one fracking job that's actually happened. It's polyacrylamide, which I believe is a component of cosmetics face cream. So if you're worried about fracking fluid, stop using face cream. Methane in groundwater is another big issue that we have to deal with. Methane is present in groundwater, full stop. But it's generally biogenic methane. In your peat bogs, your wetlands, your lake sediments and landfills, it's detected in nearly all groundwater. Thermogenic methane is what we're drilling for. It's just deep down and it's a different composition. So the BGS, currently British Geological Society, are actually carrying out a big survey of groundwater across the UK, and that map doesn't tell very well the areas that they've got data. Well, the little pyramids they've got data, and the blue stripes is where they're aiming to get more data. So they're carrying out a big survey to establish a baseline of groundwater, which I think will help not only public confidence, but will also help the companies if there's ever any dispute about it. And then there's the other thing, and I'm almost finished, the protection of shallow aquifers from frac fluids. This is another one of these areas of concern we meet a lot. This shows in the blue sort of upside down skyline is essentially where the deepest the aquifer goes underground. And way down here, this is in the US where they've done lots of fracking, from something like 9,000 feet depth to 5,000 feet depth. That's where the fracs have gone, and those spikes are the distance that fracs have gone. As you can see, there's a huge space between the aquifer and the fracs. And to get water up into those fracs, they're not going to go up naturally. Where there have been instances in the States of frac fluid turning up in people's water, that's because someone's taken a shortcut. Someone's either drilled a well badly or not completed it well enough, and it's allowed a pathway. But the ground that's not been drilled doesn't allow a pathway. It's just too impermeable. And on to the summary. So, shale gas is potentially a huge opportunity for the UK. It gives us security of supply, it helps the balance of payments, it does provide jobs, and it does pay taxes. Shale gas is no different to other gas. It's the rocks that are different. Dart energy and, frankly, iGas energy. We've got extensive areas under licence and an excellent operational track record, including drilling, site construction and restoration. We've had no environmental incidents in 10 years of drilling in the UK. Working with landowners is very important to us. I was tramping a field with a landowner over in Shropshire just last week. And frankly, you can't do these things over the phone. You have to go and look people in the eye and let them see that you're a real person too. I think concerns about the shale gas extraction process can be resolved through good science and operational excellence, not through scaremongering. The good science is getting through. There's a lot of good data out there now, and it's getting more people to believe it. That's part of our challenge. And in summary, a thriving shale gas industry in the UK benefits us all. Thank you very much.